Ascendance community. It's wonderful to be in front of you. I really appreciate this opportunity and really appreciate the honor that you've given me in order to address you today. I have been working with this organization for the past 2.5 years, and I've hosted multiple sessions. And this is an opportunity for me that, when presented, I knew I was going to jump at, as the community itself is just thriving and on the cutting edge, and an organization that I personally love to spend as much time with as I possibly can. So, knowing that I'm recording this session a bit ahead of when we're all going to be together in November, I was faced with the opportunity to share a few different topics, right? And some of them are around future of technology, some of them are around workplace and the future of workplace. The area that I love to talk about the most is more about career and how to navigate career. To me, it's very important. One, working at LinkedIn currently and working with a lot of individuals that are both looking for their first role, looking to move into another role and a growth role, or as we call it, our next plays. And then third is thinking about individuals that are looking into switching and moving roles and moving into something different. And each of these are areas that I have pretty extensive experience with, and wanted to first introduce myself to those folks who I haven't gotten the opportunity to meet. So my name is Jordan. I'm currently a director with LinkedIn, working on their go-to-market strategy, working on their lead gen opportunities, figuring out how to address local markets where they are and make sure that across all of LinkedIn's products and services, that we are getting to customers and getting to customers in a right way and a timely fashion. So that's the impetus of my team. My team is across North America. I have colleagues that work globally. Prior to this, I worked across several startups. I worked at Google, so have a little bit of a track record in tech. I've managed north of 250 individuals, hired about 1,000, worked globally, and I've read countless resumes. So felt like that was well within my opportunity and well within my bandwidth to speak to, and that's where I wanted to go today. So I'll start with a little bit of my journey. And I think it's important because you can read what's on LinkedIn and then you can take away from what's not on LinkedIn. And, from undergrad and, in a university, I thought my career was going to go one direction. And then as you unpack and unroll your career, you sort of find out that things end up becoming far from what you initially thought. So where I figured I would begin was I entered university thinking I was going to be a doctor, thinking I was going to be a pediatrician for children. Turned out that I wasn't the best at the chemistry and the biology classes, so very quickly pivoted to language and business. At that point, thought I wanted to go work for the government. Thought I was going to be an individual who was working globally and internationally and figuring out, how to get behind crime syndicates and work that way. Also didn't pan out, and found myself in business. And the way that I found myself in business was ultimately by saying yes to opportunities that I knew were going to be really interesting without necessarily knowing if I was going to be capable of doing that job at that moment. So having enough faith in my network, having enough trust in my ability to learn, but also knowing enough about each of those opportunities that they seemed really interesting to me at the time. And I sort of conjure back to when I was interviewing for the Google position and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, am I capable of doing this? Am I ready to do this? Do I understand what's going to be a part of this? And it just came down to, you say yes and sort of learn on the fly. And part of what I wanted to share with each of you today is, as you're thinking about this, and I'm going to break my conversation into 3 parts, right? Which is those individuals that are looking for a first role, those individuals that are looking to fulfill a next role, and those that may be switching. How do you figure out exactly what it is that you want to do and where you want to go? And I'll start off with this first scenario, which is individuals looking for their first job. And usually the criteria that you're going to break this down to, right, as you're somebody who's looking at where you want to be and how you want to work, and how you think you want to be categorized as a worker, is you start with the type of work that you think excites you, right? You think about the type of work that excites you right now in university. You think about the type of work that excites you in your role, and you work backwards from there. So you've got those folks that are looking at brand. You've got those folks that are looking at the specific job types. You've got obviously networking and networking opportunity. And what I find more often than not, right, as I'm looking at the 150 or 200 applicants for every single role that we're posting. As I look at the average worker who's working between 9 and 14 months in their first role, as I'm looking at employee scores and survey results that are not as favorable as organizations would like as they're thinking about hiring this first class of people, is to say, how much do you really know about the role? How much time have you really spent getting to understand what that job does? And the reason that I ask is there is a blend of academic and a blend of social, right, that comes into this search. And that's where I find that a lot of individuals sort of stop, right? Their journey is around the academic piece of it, of I've done my research, I've read the websites, I've gone to the company site, I've done what I can to understand about what the job produces because I've read it. When I ask individuals the number of times that they've gone and shadowed somebody at that organization, the number of times that they've taken a demo of the product of the company they're going to work for, the number of times that they've spoken to people outside of the interview circle for the role that they're going to take, it's usually very few and far between. And that piece of it is always interesting to me, right? Which is when they think about the role that they want and they think about the way that that role manifests when it's not on paper, they're not always necessarily the same. And that's part of what I wanted to iterate today of how much do you really know going into the role, right? How much are you putting and how much do you have riding on that specific opportunity versus how much should you, right? Based on where it is, right? So we all know that you're likely going to apply for anywhere from 1 to 5 roles statistically, definitely more than one in the current environment, but in a different environment, you might be able to do one and done. But as you're applying to these different roles, how do you know where you stand? How do you know where the role stands for you? And it comes down to weighing the following criteria, which are how many people do you know that have taken roles in this organization that have come from a similar background, a similar interest set to you, and how does that map? What does the day-to-day look like? What are the hours? What are the people? What's the culture? What does the opportunity for growth look like? What's the promotability? Then there's the separate set of questions, which is how well is the business itself doing? Are they profitable? Are they growing? Are they expanding into ways that are exciting for you? Do they give you the opportunity to think about your work-life balance the right way? And that can mean everything from the perks and benefits to, are you able to work remotely a certain number of days? Are they hybrid a certain number of days? These are all the questions that I hope individuals are asking. But more importantly, I hope that you're getting to a point where you know factually where you stand in that process, both as a candidate and both as a skilled knowledge worker, right? Which is at LinkedIn, a lot of the ways that we call and categorize individuals as we think about skill workers, knowledge workers. So a couple of final pointers for this cohort would be know what the job is, know what the job isn't. Spend some time in the role. Shadow individuals, have conversations beyond your interviews, know that the networking piece of it is going to be extremely, extremely important. Very recently, I had a conversation with a gentleman who I know socially, who was trying to give advice to his daughter, right, who was applying for a first-time job, and said she's applying to a specific role in the States. It turns out that every role she's applying for has 250 or 300 applicants. She doesn't know if she's competitive. She doesn't know where she stands. What guidance should I give her about updating her resume? And I sort of laughed and I said, that's not going to matter. I was like, you can make the resume as pretty as you want. You can make the resume jump off the page. The experience that the individual has, the extracurriculars the person is doing beyond the job, and more importantly, the networking and the referral piece is going to be the most important. So as you're leading into this, really think about who you know, what they know, and how they're setting you up for success. The second category of individual that I want to make sure that I'm addressing is those individuals that are thinking about their next play, thinking about what it is they want to do next. And I have this conversation on a daily basis at LinkedIn with team members and direct reports and cross-functional individuals that are saying, here we are in the tech sector, here we are in this very interesting climate macroeconomically. How do I figure out what it is that I want to do next, right? And you'll look at statistics and publications, which I'm obsessed with, right? That will talk about the number of roles that are upcoming that are not yet created. You'll look at the number of opportunities we don't even yet know about. You'll look at the number of roles that exist today that didn't exist a year ago. You'll look at the level of promotability versus a year ago. You'll look at how individuals are thinking about their planning and thinking about slotting individuals into other organizations. And interesting news for those individuals that are thinking about their next plays is organizations right now are tending to lean more in on internal talent, more on tribal knowledge, more on those folks that understand the goings on of a business than taking the time to hire externally, right? They would rather promote from within. So what that means for you is, where do you stand within that process, right? Are they going within division? Are they going within team? Are they going within region? Are there specific skill sets and language capabilities? So the way that we define this is, are you on somebody's succession plan? So to say this differently, we might jump into a conversation with a hiring manager a full 6 months before a role might come into play. And the way that I would categorize this search for individuals is, are you thoughtful? Are you connected? Are you top of mind? So what I mean more discreetly is, are you somebody who is talking to a hiring manager on a biweekly or a monthly basis? Are you somebody who is actively showcasing the skill set that's going to make you really attractive for that role and for that next play? How do you know, and how do they know? When a 20% role or a stretch opportunity or a project comes available for somebody that's thinking about hiring you, or for yourself that's thinking about applying for that role, how directly correlated is that to the troubles of that business, right? How in line is that with somebody who is wanting to hire you and somebody who's wanting to bring you on board? And those conversations are one that, yes, your manager can help you with, that yes, mentors can help you with, but the burden of proof is largely going to be on you. So what are you doing, right, to connect with an individual? How much time are you spending on the phone, right? How much time are you spending on Zoom meetings? How much time are you spending just corresponding with this person back and forth, getting to know what their job looks like, getting to know what their business looks like? So you are the ready up, right, for a succession plan. That's the most important. So where are you on the succession plan? Is your skill and is your resume, right, ready to be that person, and how do they know? The final cohort that I wanted to address here is the switcher, right? So the individual that's thinking about going from one sector to another. And I'll address this one quickly because I know that we're on the clock. But as you think about that opportunity right now, the switcher is one of the hardest roles, right, to caveat into at this point, knowing that there's a surplus of talent, right? When you come into this environment, you know right now skilled labor is not going to be a shortage. So the question that I have for individuals that are thinking about switching are, how do you know that you're ready for the switch, and how is the business ready to adjust to you? And when I come into this phase, I would say, be ready for two things. One is to start working avidly at whatever that switch role is as your side work, as your side hustle. As you think about bringing new skill sets, bringing new improvements, bringing new adjustments, bringing new ideas, bringing new opportunities and projects, is this something that you've been doing and you can showcase a track record? So you can show that you can multitask. Not only have you demonstrated such mastery in your current role that you can do that full time with success, but oh, by the way, I can also do whatever this next role is, or whatever my perception of this next role or the hiring manager's perception is of this next role, and do that really well. The second is, take your time with it, right? So if you are somebody right now who in this climate is a bit unsure, and you're thinking about switching as a run from versus a run to, really check yourself. And this comes down to a caveat of experience. It comes down to a caveat of how do I know I'm ready, and will I know I'm ready? And the answer is, you always have more time than you think, right? So don't push yourself unnecessarily. So all in, I wanted to pull up, as I know that we have just about a minute left, and share the following, which is, my career has certainly been a tale of a journeyman, right? It has not been laddered, it has been latticed. It has not been a straight line, it has been a curved line. Say yes to opportunities that you know interest you. Say yes to teams and leaders that you know will push you and grow you and have your best interests at heart. Say yes to cultures and organizations that are aligned with your values and your skill set. And finally, make sure that you are putting yourself in a position where the work itself on a daily basis is motivating, the people are more motivating, and the opportunities ahead of you are most. And hopefully that's enough guidance for one day. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Take care.